full road trip when you go to LAFC and Salt Lake and come home with some points. I still consider it, grabbing an away win out of two is still pretty good. And so now we're at home, a place where we've been pretty good, and it's just our job to continue picking up points at home. But we're under no illusions. They're a good team, but they've had a tough schedule too. We're all in this 3-week mindset where energy is shared and lineups are mixed up. So it's always challenging, and sometimes you just got to make some plays. And I think our group's in mentally they're in a good place. So it's about recovery right now and putting our best foot forward tomorrow.
Thanks for that, Luis.
Ben, you guys have won 6 of the last 8 games. This past one against Real Salt Lake, I mean, you guys have more opportunities. A few things go a different way, and you probably win that one as well. Just how have you seen the team grow, or what's been the flip where now you guys are in this good form, you can say, winning 6 out of 8?
I think we're spending we're spending more time together. I know that sounds kind of silly, but we're this, as I said, we've been dancing and we've been trying to find the right group and the right structure, and also we've gotten some health back. Artie came back into the fold, Jack came back into the fold, so some of this becomes about who's available and you have your best crew on the field and within a structure I think they're starting to get familiar with. We're always going to still be adapting, and I think we're better for the time we've spent in different going about games in different ways for in the future. But we're starting to narrow in on kind of, again, our identity on the field structure-wise, and then also we have our best players available.
You mentioned, kind of focusing on this next 3 weeks before the World Cup break. Last week, also talking to Jonathan Bond, he talked about just kind of the focus as far as earning as many points before that break. Why is that so important? Make sure how many points you guys can get before.
I think because there's this break, I think we start to think that way and say that it's like, okay, 10 days, 2 weeks focus, so let's get the points before we break. In a lot of ways, that's how the season rolls anyways. If we didn't have a break, we'd want to go into this game, still maximizing the points, and we'd still want to advance in the Open Cup, and we'd want to finish, we'd want to get a result in LA, So I don't know if it's. I think this break starts to just have us speak differently for some reason. This is the first time we've had this. We're not necessarily used to a summer break and a World Cup coming and all the excitement. I think it's. But that's a reality. So the challenge of staying here right now. With a lot of games back to back, and staying healthy and taking care of yourself and having all our focus right now as a group of 30 players and staff and support staff, just all in here for 10 days, and then they get to not see my beautiful face for a little bit.
And last one for me, if talking about the World Cup, Jack, fighting for a roster spot with the U.S. men's national team. He's already obviously played a few games with the men's national team. In your opinion, is he a guy that gets called up? You think?
I don't know if he's going to make the team or not. I think he should. Am I biased? 1,000%. But I do think he has qualities that some of the other guys don't necessarily have, and I think he can break down low pressure. I think he's a player in certain scenarios. If you look down the bench, you're going to want to put him in because he can score, he can provide, he can unlock teams. And again, I think there's a lot of scenarios where you would want a guy like Jack. But I'm not the coach, and those guys are doing a lot more, and they know a lot more about the. So I say that with complete bias. So that's that. The message to Jack is just to continue to plug away here and play at the best level here, and that helps them. It's no different of if he wasn't in a World Cup. You do your job. People are watching, and also crazy things happen the last month leading into a World Cup. You get on that preliminary. That's his first job, is to try to get on the preliminary one, and then from there, crazy stuff happens in camp, and you just got to be ready. And even if it doesn't pan out, you still have to be ready because you can still get called into these things. So he's been his mentality's been very good, and he's the second he came back into our lineup, there's no coincidence that some of this stuff is starting to look a little bit better. He's a big piece for us.
Coach, this team no have a tie. Lose and win.
Isn't that strange? I don't think I've ever gone this far into a season without a tie.
Tomorrow, 7 games in the home, new chances from the fan. What did you balance?
What is the last question? What is the?
Este equipo gana o pierde.
Yeah.
No tiene empate. Mañana una nueva oportunidad en casa, en un buen ambiente. ¿Cuál es su balance?
Yeah, just what's the balance heading into this game? That as of now, the record obviously no draws,
Yeah.
so you either win or lose. And final home match before the break, so just kind of the balance heading into this game.
Yeah, we're not that interested in a tie tomorrow. We'd like to be on the other side of that, but we understand. Yeah, it's been feast or famine. We've done a good job with the lead. I would say this on the losses. I feel at times when we give up the first goal, we get a little antsy to get the second goal back and get extended. And I think it's important to understand that we're a team that's capable of scoring 2, potentially 3 goals if we do go down. And to stick to the game plan, that doesn't change. Of course, game state and time and second half versus first half, and that all changes things on your urgency in trying to get back into games. But some of these 2-3-0s, I think we could you stay at 1-0 a little longer and make sure we stick to the game plan and not get undisciplined. I think that has been, on the road in particular, a few times we've been guilty of that.
¿Por qué la pregunta? Why the question? Por lo que se ve en el campo, la cohesión, el entendimiento que se va viendo y la confianza que él refleja con sus hombres en el banco, sabedores de que la cohesión va a llegar y este equipo va a competir más.
Sí, dice, o sea, que ¿por qué haces tú la pregunta? Es de que por basado en lo que ven en el campo, que se ve la unidad, la confianza de él,
la cohesión y lo que él refleja también, la confianza que su cuerpo técnico, él sobre todo, en el hecho de ver, sabedor de que las piezas se van uniendo.
Yeah, so he's saying, so his question it derives from the fact that what he sees on the field is that there's unity. You can see the chemistry forming, also the confidence that yourself and your coaching staff reflects as far as the players that you have, so that you can see that everything's kind of coming to fruition.
Yeah.
That kind of goes into the point you were making, that you always know that you could maybe come back even if you go down a few goals, right?
I think so. Yes, we have the confidence that we can score in a variety of different ways. Even in the Salt Lake game, we've got 2 or 3 really good looks that there's no reason we shouldn't get out of there with 1 or 2 goals and make that very interesting. So that's coming along. Again, our identity. I'm not a big fan of that word, but staying consistent in one place does allow relationships to build and some continuity. So we've had that for the first time. So I think that is helping, finding out who are we and what our best version. I know we're late. It's past a third, but that's just how this season has rolled. And as I said, it reminds me a little of my first season here and figuring some things out and then finding kind of our way. What our best group is and in what structure. So the mentality's good, but again, we're playing one of the best teams in the hemisphere for my money. They've done a great job. They're experienced. They've got real speed. They've got a forward who's relentless, and they're battle tested and they're experienced. So this will be a really good test for us. But I think it's one our guys are excited about.
Great. Okay, Dustin, go ahead.
Hey, Ben. There's been a lot of talk about Jack, but he wore the armband the other night against Salt Lake. He said, he was very honored. You guys have a lot of leaders on this team. What is it about Jack that you've seen in his growth this year, just from the leadership's perspective as well?
I gave the captain's armband to Hector before the game, and Hector gave it to Jack. So, and I tell you that just to show you where Hector's at right now in his life and how important he is to this group and how selfless he's been. So it was and I think Jack understood why, and I also think Jack played unbelievable in the 45, and I thought Hector had a really good game. So it's a good group. It's a good group.
Thanks, man. I'll turn it over to the other.
Alex, go ahead.
Yes, Coach. First of all, can you hear me?
I got you, Alex.
Thank you, sir. Two quick ones, Coach. LAFC, of course, a great match. First half against RSL, solid, and then second half, not so much. You know the challenge. You mentioned Vancouver coming into tomorrow. Which team do you expect you're going to have out there? First half RSL game team, second half RSL team. Is it tough to decipher that with so many games and all the variables you've talked about already?
Well, the Salt Lake game, we went to a 5. We played a lot of guys that, were fresh. And I thought they did a good job in the first half. And then starting the second half, as much as it was, I preach about the discipline and the goal kicks and things like that. Yes, that's a big part of it. But, we also had an own goal. And that is, going down early in that second half, goals change games. And now we get a little extended. And it was just, I thought, overall, it was a pretty good game. It was just a few moments. I think we let ourselves down with some of the discipline, and obviously, a set piece, a long throw in, giving that up. So I'm watching it back. I'm a little less concerned about this whole first half, second half. I think overall we still had enough chances in that game to get something out of it. And it wasn't a great night offensively and finishing out some plays, and we turned off a few times. So to answer your question, what do I expect? I expect the best version of ourselves, because that's what it's going to take, and I think our team understands that. We should have good energy, and we're at home, and I think it will be, and they understand. I think the game plan is very clear, and so looking forward to watching the game.
Coach, quickly, on your relationship with referees, and I know different coaches approach referees in different ways. For all of their blemishes, is it also a work of lobbying, of pointing things out? Because I notice it's an ongoing conversation with you, and that's not a negative. It's part of being a coach, right? How do you see your role in that interaction with the referees?
Well, I don't know. It's a very good question, and I've wrestled with this my entire career as a player and a coach, and my relationship with referees. But I'm an emotional guy. And, I've tried to, at times, change that part of me, but it doesn't feel authentic. And would I be better off if I sat there for a whole game? I don't know. Some games probably yes, Alex. Some games probably no. But, it's an emotional game. I'm an emotional guy. And having dialogue with referees, to me, is very normal. Sometimes does it detract from what I should be worried about? Absolutely. But again, this is me. I'm not going to change that much.
I'd love to mic you up, Coach, to be honest with you.
I don't think we can print all that stuff.
Anyway, Coach, thank you for addressing that. I really appreciate that, and best of luck tomorrow, Coach.
Thank you.
Rudy, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
Good, Rudy.
Hey, you spoke a little bit about Brian White and what he poses, but, against a team that transitions as quickly as Vancouver, maybe what are some details that your group needs to get right defending?
Well, when we talk about transition, it's always about repress, rest, defense, sustained possessions versus, fast attacks become fast attacks the other way if you don't do it well. So there's we have ways to deal with any types of transitions. But again, a lot of it starts with provoking and rest defense after we lose it. Again, making good decisions in transition ourselves. Again, the rest defense, rest defense or active defending as we attack, or is our structure behind the ball good? And then good old-fashioned duels and making sure when they do, bring speed, or are you protecting space in the moment, or are you stepping in and winning duels? There's a lot to it, and it's a very difficult thing. Leaving space is a very dangerous thing, and how you control that space is you can do it in a variety of ways. He's been just consistently an animal. I mean, he does, he comes underneath. He's constantly running in behind. His box engagement and being alert, and he's also brave, and he puts his head and he runs at real speed in the box. He's a high level forward, in particular for this league and for that team and the way they play. It's also, this team isn't just transition though. It's a lot of service. It is a lot of switch of play, big vertical balls or big diagonals, and they can break you down as well. And Kubas and Berhalter, they've got soccer. So there's not a lot of weaknesses as far as what they need to offer to win games. They can hit you direct. They can build on you. They can hit you in transition. They can swing you side to side if you want to go low. So every phase we're going to have to be sharp, whether it's a high block, mid block, low block, all these things, and certainly the box defending comes into play when you talk about defending this team.
I wanted to ask you as well on how have you evaluated Lawrence Anali's adaptation to this deeper role that you've implemented recently?
The few times we've played him in a 4, he's been pretty damn good, and it's hard in this league to match up out wide. It's hard. These guys are blazing and quality, and every weekend there's boys on those touch lines that are rapid and bring high quality and making a lot of money. So you need guys that have real pace out there and are good in the duels and are selfless. And I think so far he's done a good job with that. He also he allows the game to now tell him when to get forward, and he comes from that second line. And he's been fun to watch, his growth and some of the responsibility he's taking for himself.
Last one for me, Coach. You mentioned Vancouver being clearly one of the better teams currently in MLS and standings, but how does a good Houston performance look to you on Saturday beyond the result? With
just the result, I don't care how it all goes down. I want 3 points. Of course, we have an idea of what the game looks like. I don't want to get into that too much. I'm not trying to be cagey. I just don't want to speak about what success looks like on our end, because I think that tips our hat tactically. But 3 points would be the I guess the answer to that. And that's what you told me not to answer it with, but that's what I'm going to go with that one, Rudy. Thank you.
All right, 2 more quick ones. We'll go Joey and then Selvin.
Hey, Ben. Academy player Samir Muhammad was awarded with the MLS Next Pro contract this week. Let's talk about his growth so far this year.
Yeah, another guy we've watched with D2 and have success, and I even saw him in the academy. With I think with the 18s, and he just has a way about him. Another guy in that, when we talk about Arana, that is like, yeah, that kid, there he is, understands the game, understands how to manufacture goals, is processing information in a good way, and just, again, is consistent. He's, all these guys are also usually when we sign them, they're battle tested with us in preseason. They're battle tested with us also on a daily basis. Not on a daily basis, but quite a few times within the first team when we use scout teams with the second team. So these guys aren't just getting critiqued in their game environment or at their age. They're with us. They're seeing preseasons. They're playing MLS competition, and they're also training against the first team or with the first team in some scenarios. So it's a good evaluation process that we have, and he's earned that, and looking forward to seeing what he can do with D2. And then, as always, we keep close tabs on them, and if that starts to move in a direction where he's one of the better players there and has success, then he'll get moved up. But that's the process for all those guys.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Selvin, wrap it up with you.
Do you think this game can become a momentum builder for the team?
I don't know if it's momentum. I would say because of we had a little bit of a down day against Salt Lake. It's really about bouncing back and having a good response against a very good team. I think we beat Vancouver, or we get the right result. I think it says a lot about our group right now, because of, again, how much respect I think we have for this Vancouver team. But as I said, our group, for the most part, rises to the occasion. We're looking forward to this one.
Okay, next question. What stands most when you analyze Vancouver's styles or plays?
I said before, they can get you different ways. So they'll take what's there. If they need to build, they'll do that. If they need to go a little bit more direct, they have some ability to do that. But in the end, I still think it's a high volume of service. It's a high volume of numbers in the box. They get there quite often. So how we deal with them out wide and prevent service is critical. How we box defend, how we provoke. How we build pressure. It's all, against a team like this, you got to be good in a bunch of different areas, so it's a pretty good team.
Ben, really quick.
Mm-hmm.
First, I appreciate you sharing that nugget that Hector gave the armband to Jack. Did Hector tell you anything as far as why he did that, and also just kind of maybe what sense did you feel from Jack as far as what that meant to him?
I think, look, there's a lot. I think we're all. I think Jack is. We want Jack on this team. We think he's a good. So again, giving, helping him out in a bunch of different ways. I think it's a collective here, and again, I think it wasn't that. I don't think it was that Hector didn't want it. It was just like I think he just thinks differently now. And I give that just because I know you guys always ask about Hector and his role with this team, and I'm always, talking about what he offers, and there's more of that stuff than not, and again, just he's grown in a lot of ways over the last 2 years, and it's been nice to see.